Hey everyone, today I want to show the dead zones for Alice Madness Returns. Starting with the camera, this game uses about 20% square dead zone. So you can see that you need to move the stick that far and a little further in the corners before you start seeing movement occur. Square dead zones restrict diagonal movement around the axes, so you can make bobbing motions like this, and in this case move perfectly right, or point at very obvious angles, and only cardinal movement will occur. This dead zone is shared with the aiming dead zone, so you can see vertically the restricted diagonal movement still occurs here as well. Something that really hurts the aiming, a square dead zone isn't ideal because it restricts diagonal movement, and that makes your cursor directions incorrect from your stick directions, and you have to make more dramatic stick angles before you start seeing subtle angles occur with the crosshair, and move a little more further diagonally before you start seeing the same break out of the dead zone and see the same acceleration values. But something that really hurts the camera movement in this game, especially aiming, is the aim smoothing. Aim smoothing causes your turn rate to build up over time. So if you push the stick fully, you won't get your maximum turn speed out immediately. It'll take a while to build up over time. So if you can see, this is the maximum turn rate. But if I make quick movements, you'll see this is heavy enough to have nothing happen in-game, basically. I mean, it's moving very slightly, but you can see large stick movements like this, or horizontal movements, vertical movements, really don't influence the crosshair. You have to hold it for a length of time before it builds up, and this really makes all your camera movements just feel extremely sluggish. Movement uses a square dead zone as well, but a larger one, about 30%. You can still see that in the corners you have to push more before you start seeing movement. And since the restricted diagonal movement scales with size, we have quite a bit more restricted diagonal movement for movement. You can see that I can make these large wobbling movements, and she'll just move perfectly forward and perfectly back in these cases. If you trace the right outside the dead zone, you can see just how small diagonal movement access you have just right around the dead zone. The shaded region represents the run threshold, so once you break out of this, Alice starts running. And you can kind of see that it's a rounded square shape, and this is actually an ideal setup for when using square dead zones. That means despite using square dead zones, that's what warps this into this rounded square shape, but it means they're setting up the run threshold to be circular and essentially be equidistant from the dead zone. So from this distance to here is the same distance from here to here. So that part's set up well, and of course having it being slightly under the threshold they have now makes it so that you can sprint no matter what. There's no issue with the thumbstick being able to reach that threshold. So Madness Returns also includes the original American McGee's Alice, so I'll demonstrate the dead zones for that as well. So for the camera, it uses about a 31-32% circular dead zone, so you can see very easily where the camera begins moving. This is larger than the camera dead zone for Madness Returns, but as you can see, it's circular, and there is full diagonal movement. So that's kind of an interesting trade-off. And you can see horizontally that subtle diagonals are picked up, and if I make bobbing motions, they're very visibly noticed given the crosshair trail. And I don't know if smoothing's completely gone in this version, but you can see that the camera doesn't seem to have anywhere near as much as Madness Returns does. So the camera in this game feels quite a bit better than it does in Madness Returns. Something still feels a little off to me. It could be some quirk in the acceleration. This is part of the backwards compatibility mode. I'm demonstrating this on the Xbox One, so there could be some latency or something affecting the feel as far as that goes. But this overall feels quite a bit better than it does in Madness Returns. So it's a little interesting why this game would get a circular dead zone, but Madness Returns gets a square dead zone. It could be different people working on the controls for both games, but it's a little interesting having this contrast. But even within this game, there's an interesting contrast with the movement using a square dead zone. So as you can see, that movement starts once you break out of this square region. And this is a little smaller than the dead zone in Madness Returns, so you have a little less restricted diagonal movement compared to that, though it still applies there. So if I just trace the dead zone like I did before, you can see where the cardinal movement is and the small regions of diagonal movement occurring. Another interesting thing is that this game offers a full gradient of movement speed, so you can move very slowly, and as you push the stick further, you can move to your maximum run speed. Now, as you can see, that this game just has a single movement animation that's just sped up or slowed down to do this, versus the two unique animations that Madness Returns has. But that is a bit of interesting control you have over the character that you don't have in Madness Returns, just with the two speeds versus a full gradient. But otherwise, that covers it. So thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day.